Hi, my name's Michael, and recently I read a book called Submission by Michel Houellebecq, and I love that book so much. I just couldn't get enough of it. I actually read it in 24 hours because I was so addicted to his writing and what he had to say. It was all over, so I had to read something else, and I went to the library and picked up The Map and the Territory, also by Michel Houellebecq, and this is translated from the French by Gavin Bowd. While I didn't enjoy this book as much as Submission, I think it's a very interesting book, and I think Michel Houellebecq has some interesting things to say. The whole point of his writing really seems philosophical and trying to talk about cultural issues in a satirical manner, and I think after reading two books, I'm definitely a fan. I know Michel Houellebecq is a misogynist and he is a nihilist, and he's not really the kind of person that you should look up to, but I really like his writing style and I just love the way he approaches cultural issues. But then again, I seem to have a thing for pretentious arsehole authors and I just want to read everything they write. The Map of the Territory tells the story of Jed, who is an artist and he's had some pretty good success in the past with his pictures and his art, and he hasn't produced much art in the recent times, and his father decided he's ready to do another exhibition and he wants to do some portraits. And his agent convinces him to get Michel Houellebecq to write the text for the exhibition, and this is an interesting thing where the author inserts himself into the story, and it's been done before, I know, but gotta wonder how the author really sees himself and if he's portraying himself in a certain light because that's how he feels about his own life or if that's just what's working for the story. And it got me thinking because right at the end of the book, Michel Houellebecq in the acknowledgement states the opinions expressed are exclusively those of the characters. In short, this is a work of fiction. So he is expressing opinions of himself as a character, as a piece of fiction, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he sees himself as this person, but it does get you thinking about the whole semi-autobiographical elements that often play out in novels. And I would love to know more about his life to see if the way he's portrayed himself is definitely the way he sees himself. But we know this is a work of satire because most of his books are satirical in a way, and in this sense, he's really looking at the idea of art and the artist's life and the way their art affects the people. And there is also an element where he's looking at Paris and France and the way tourism is affecting their country, and it's really interesting the way he looks at outside of Paris. He's portraying the people as not accepting of tourists as strangers, but in Paris it's a whole tourist mentality where it seems to be the major industry and the art is part of their tourism and their culture, and people are expected to behave in a certain way just because this is a tourist type career for them. And you probably could go down that road and try and explore this whole concept in a lot more detail, but I don't want to do that because I feel like this is something that is going to be different for other people, and reading the book just gets you to think about these ideas and try and get you to try and make up your mind of how you feel about the artist life and tourism and things like that. That's not to say people might have differing opinions on the book than to me, but I thought it was just a wonderful book, and I really enjoy when a book tries to make me think about issues differently and issues that I may not have thought about in the past. I'm really digging Michel Houellebecq and his style. I definitely want to read more books of his. If you do have a recommendation of what to read next, definitely let me know. I do know he's a bit of a misogynist and he's not going to be for everyone, but I feel like he's someone that doesn't get talked about, and I wanted to talk about his novels because I have enjoyed them and I think there's some interesting things to say about them. Submission, heaps better, and I love the dark take it has with the map and the territory. I think Michel Houellebecq took a really different style and it's very different, but it still feels like one of his books. This is a bit light and playful, at times, and I think that really made a difference. Almost to the point where I thought I was reading someone else. And that playful tone really plays throughout the novel in some interesting ways. Like when character Michel Houellebecq shows up in the novel, there was a section where each time they reference a person, it's like Michel Houellebecq, the author of whatever, or Michel Houellebecq, who wrote Platform, or the author of The Possibility of an Island. And I think he really had a tongue-in-cheek approach of just how people reference artists if their work, and he jammed it in all the time where he was probably running out of things, so he was referencing a poem or something like that. But then he stops doing that and explores life further. I would love to talk more about what happens to Michel Houellebecq in the novel, but I think that would be too much of a spoiler. But it does open some interesting ideas within the book that are worth exploring, but I feel like not enough people have read the book, so I'm just going to leave that out and just say, if you never read Michel Houellebecq, give him a go. But be warned, he is a nihilist, he is a misogynist, he is an arsehole, and he's definitely not going to be for everyone, but he has some interesting things to say. Sometimes it's worth exploring an author for their ideas rather than their personality. If we read authors with personalities that we like, we're probably never going to get a different point of view. We're probably not going to get the opportunity to explore different ideas, and it doesn't matter if you agree with him or not. It's just the planting the seed and getting you to think about the ideas that are the most important thing. And I think Michel Houellebecq did a wonderful job in The Map and the Territory. I would recommend reading Submission rather than this one, but I do plan to read all of his works, and I think I found a new favourite author. And I think I need to read more French literature, especially contemporary French literature like this, because there's something about it that I just love and I just want to read more of. And it's hard to point my finger on. I think it's the attitude of the French writer and people that is so different to an American or an Englishman that really stands out. And I remember when I read Bonjour Tristesse, I had that same feeling, and I don't know if I see it in the classic French literature as much as the contemporary and the modern classics, but I definitely want to explore more, and I hope that people are willing to give me some recommendations. I hope this review gave you something to think about and maybe entice you to read this novel. I think Michel Houellebecq is someone worth exploring, and I'm definitely going to be reading more of his books. And I did want to do a review because, you know, I love my translated fiction, and I want to document the books I read more frequently on this channel, and doing a review like this is something that I felt I needed to do. It's all well and good to do wrap ups and talk about all the books you read in the month, but I think a wrap up is not going to be the type of video that you would go back to and watch. I don't think anyone's going to go back and watch a wrap up from a couple of years ago about all the books they read in a month back then, but they're more likely to check out a review. And I think the review videos are probably the videos I'm most proud of because they're the most difficult. They don't get the most views, but I definitely think they're the ones that are going to be the videos that show my progression as a booktuber or vlogger, and I'm hoping that will help me develop my style and skills. If you want to find me elsewhere, all my links to social media are in the description below. Thank you for watching.